Hey everybody, it's TY Stone Muscle checking in, and this one right here is about my jail time, going into the penitentiary at 1990 and being released 1992 after doing 15 months. Give me 1 second, I have to get something real quick. Just give me. I always got to do this. I always think that I'm going to have everything with me before I start doing my videos, but I always forget something. So just give me a second. I can cook. I made some chili. I made some chili today, and I tried to eat healthy now because of my age. Excuse me. I try to eat healthy now because of my age, and I usually run off to just grab a little bite to eat here and there. So after I did my jail sentence of 15 months, I was released from the streets, onto the streets, and I think I found a job, or I always had a job. It was always easy for me to get a job. Um, Thank goodness to my time in Glen Mills when I got my GED. Um, Happy to say that I passed my GED, my pre-GED on the first try in Glen Mills, and went on to take my GED test and passed that on the first try also. And Glen Mills at the time was such a connected school with their curriculum and I guess the system that they had in place. We actually went to Westchester University to take the test, I believe, because I remember going on a bus ride. I remember going on a bus ride to take the test at Westchester University, and it was kind of like right around the corner from. It wasn't too far from Glen Mills, and I passed it on the first try. And I'll never forget this. A real good friend of mine. I was sitting there on the bus. We all took the GED test. Everybody on that bus was just going to take the GED test. There was probably about 20 of us, 25 of us. Just think about that. We were in a school with about 500 kids and only 25 of us, 25, maybe 18 of us were the only ones from 1986 that were going to take this test. So Philadelphia, Montgomery County, and the surrounding counties around there, these kids that were coming to Glen Mills, some of them couldn't read, some of them couldn't write. Um, it was a sad situation because it was at that time I thought everybody was just up to the curriculum that I was. I just thought that. I never knew. I never lived outside. I never lived outside of my little Montgomery County town, which is Amblin. So I didn't know that they weren't getting their education. I knew kids were cutting school, but I didn't know at 17 and 18 years old, they couldn't read or write. Not putting anyone down at all. But it just comes to show you that they were into a life of something else. And here it was. The only thing that I thought was kind of like an easy thing or easy crimes to do was just cutting class, skipping school, and throwing firecrackers. And I remember sitting on this bus ride. See, now I can tell all that marijuana that I smoked is starting to leave my system, because I would have never picked right back up on the subject that I was talking about and just kind of like went went off and then got right back on. So I'm telling you people right now, marijuana usage, I'm not knocking it. I know they're legalizing it all over the country, all over the United States, but just glad it's not a part of my life anymore. On this bus ride, man, I don't think I passed this test. I said, this test was kind of hard. And he looked at me, he said, man, shut up. He said it just like that. He said, man, shut up. He said, you passed. And that person who told me that, yeah, he wound up dying. He wound up dying. I think he had a heart attack while he was playing basketball. And, it was a sad situation. But this guy was one of the best athletes I had ever seen. So I remember him telling me that, just be quiet, you passed. And when we went to the ceremony, Glen Mills had a ceremony. They invited everybody from all the units were in this big auditorium. And my last name is Weldon. So while they were calling all these names, they were calling them in alphabetical order. And I'm sitting there like, and nobody told you. None of the counselors, they didn't say anything. This was the beautiful thing about it. They didn't say a word. They just said, okay, everybody, we're going to the auditorium because they're having a GED ceremony. And I'm sitting there like, man, they're not even going to say who passed. So we're calling all these names, all 22, 25 of us, or however many I said, or however many I thought, maybe 32 or something like that. They call my name. They say, Tyrone Weldon. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking around and I just said, did they just call my name? I said, I passed that test on the first try. I'm not bragging about being smart because a GED test at that time, I don't think the curriculum, I hear it's harder now. So just think, in 1986 to what it is now, they called my name. And when they called my name, it was the proudest, it was the happiest I had ever been in my life. But I'm sad to say that I didn't learn my lesson, because when I got out, I did I went to jail in 1990, November of 1990. Did that time, came home, got released, which is what this video is about, and took my dealing to another level. Like I said, I always had a job. My grandmom and grandfather, God bless their souls, always instilled in me to get a job. So to appease my grandparents, I got a job, even though I knew in the back of my mind that I was probably going to go back to the streets and do what I did, do what I used to do. Now at this time, the streets were alive, and it was and popping. It was crazy. Everybody was just walking around with big chains, driving fancy cars. And I was easily influenced by that and got caught up in that. Like I said, the stories that I heard in jail the first time that I went and got out, it blew my mind. And I guess I wanted to be a part of that life. When all I had to do was just listen to my grandparents, go to work, get married, and do the normal thing. Just do the normal thing. One thing I didn't like that I couldn't understand was why we never got talked into going to college. Because I think college would have distracted me from going in the direction that I would have, because I would have had so much fun in school playing sports and having a good time, drinking beers and dating beautiful young ladies, just having a good time and just doing that. So I'm not going to blame my family for not instilling that in me, because it just wasn't in our family to go to college at that time. Instead, it was go to work, support yourself, and forget college. And I to tell you the truth, with all these uh, students out here that went to college and can't find a job, and they're given whatever it is they took up, to go to college for. A lot of them really didn't pursue whatever it is they went to school for. So some of it was a big waste of money, but some of it wasn't. Some of these guys that went to school for engineering at Drexel University, and stuff like that, these guys went on to have a beautiful life, buy beautiful houses, go on vacations and stuff like that, and just have a good time, waking up, going to work, being married, having a girlfriend, and taking care of the situation. So I guess this video is basically about being hard headed. Can you come home from doing a sentence that you were scared to do? You had fear in your eyes when they put you in that left side bullpen instead of the right. How could it be that you go right back out into that same life and think that you're going to be smart enough to not get caught up in that lifestyle, or get caught up and be locked away again? That was the arrogance in me. And that's what I want to tell or relay to all these young men out here that did that first sentence, or are going to do that first sentence. Learn from it. Learn from it. Don't be hard headed. Don't be like me and say, you know what, when I come home, I can do a robbery better. I can do this better. I can steal better. I can sell this better. Don't be like that. Don't do that. Don't think about that. Think about getting a job, buying a house, supporting yourself, going on vacations, going having fun with your friends and stuff. Because when you start thinking that you're going to be smarter this time around from doing what you did to get put in there the first time, the second time, third time, just remember that it's going to catch up with you somehow, and it's going to catch up with you some way. might not do any time. You might not do any time. You might be one of the ones who never get caught, like some of the guys that I know, that I grew up with. Made a bunch of money on the streets, never did 2 days in jail. But it'll come back on you in a certain way. It'll come back on you somehow. When I was talking to this young man who never did any time, but was out there selling 100 miles an hour, making a bunch of money, I'll never forget him saying this to me. He said, Ty, he said, I was of what I did. This guy never shot a gun. This guy never stabbed anybody. All he did was sell on the streets and make his money. I'm not going to say his name because my mom said, watch it for the names you say. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, you're right. I'm not going to say those names. I'm not going to bring up those names, because people don't want their stuff out there like that. Just because I want to tell my story don't mean they want their story told or to be heard. He said, I'll never forget this. Right after we got done eating all this barbecue, it was like a cookout or something like that. And we all went to the side of the house, and, we're just drinking our beers and stuff like that, and just talking. And it was about 5 or 6 of us. And he said, I have nightmares. He said, I wake up in cold sweats because of what I did. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like this guy never did any time. I'm like, what would he have nightmares for? Why would he feel guilt about what he, that's just what's going to happen. I don't have those nightmares. All my nightmares were probably my nightmares were taken away when they said go into the left side instead of the right side. That was my nightmare. There was nothing more scarier than that. As a 20-year-old being sent to the penitentiary with a bunch of adults and hardened criminals who were about anything by any means. And here it is. I'm a kid. Like I said, that was my nightmare. So, bottom line, what I'm saying is, for the wrong that you did or the wrong that you're planning to do, it's going to catch up to you. It's going to come out. It's in the universe. As LL Cool J said in he had a TV show where he had his pant legs rolled up one time. If you look at LL Cool J, he was a famous rapper from back in the 80s, and now I think he's on CSI Los Angeles or one of those shows. I don't watch those shows because I just don't watch. But I'll never forget him saying that whatever you do is going to come back to you. What he meant was all the wrong that you're planning to do, all the wrong that you have done, it's in the universe. It's going to come back to you. It's out there. There's just no way that you're going to get away with all this stuff that you're doing on the streets, that you think you're being so slick and getting away from. Because when he told me that story, I'm like, man, this guy, he lives in a nice, beautiful home. He's got a nice wife and all that, but he still wakes up with nightmares. He still wakes up and has these bad dreams. And these bad dreams came from him going over to the houses of the people that he was selling to near Christmas time. I'll never forget him telling me this. He said it was right around Christmas time, and he said, they gave me their Christmas money that they were going to spend on their kids' gifts. And I willingly accepted that money because all I had on the brain was getting money. and plenty of it. I didn't think that it was going to come back on me like this, but all I see is their faces of when we did the exchange, and the next day was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and they didn't have any Christmas toys under the tree. Didn't have one gift under the tree, because that's the addiction that is put on those people and him, because he was addicted to the money as they were addicted to the high. His high was walking out of that house with that money, and it came back on him. It came back on him to the point to where, as though his laugh is not a happy laugh. His smile is not a happy smile. He'll laugh for a second, he'll smile for a quick second, and then his face will go right back into a somber mood. Because I bet you, even 25, 30, 35 years later, he thinks about what he did to those families. So, what I'm trying to tell the people is, whatever you do out there in the universe, whatever you do out here in the world, you think you're going to get away with. You think you're going to get away with it, but you're not. It's going to come back on you somehow. You're either going to do a bunch of time, or you're going to be the one waking up with nightmares. You're going to get into a motorcycle accident. You're going to get into a car accident, walk around with a permanent limp, lose an arm, lose a leg, lose a lung or a kidney from getting stabbed. Something is going to happen. So prepare for all those things that you are causing misery upon these people. And think that you're going to get away with, because in all actuality, you're not. You're not going to get away with it. It's going to come back to haunt you. And most of the times, it's going to come back to haunt you in a permanent way, in a way that you can't forget even 20, 25, 30 years later. So watch what you do out there. Young boys, young girls, young men, young ladies. Watch what it is that you do, because somehow, some way, it's going to come back to bite you. And before I close this out, I even heard this. I was talking to this very knowledgeable lady who had a whole bunch of wisdom. She said, sometimes what you do won't come back to affect you. You might get away with it. But if you have kids, it will be taken out on your kids. Your kids will be the ones to suffer for your bad deeds. And when she said that, I sat there and I looked at her, and the first thing that came to my mind was my dad. Because my dad wasn't a saint. As a matter of fact, he was involved in something that was so bad that a lot of his friends in the neighborhood looked at him in a different light, because he was always known as this cool, smooth dude who was slick, could dress real good. He was a singer, but he used to sing at these clubs and stuff like that as like a 15, 16, 17-year-old. He used to have all these young girls, screaming and crying his name and stuff. It came back, not only on him, but it probably came back on me. And I'm not blaming Dad. Dad's not here to defend himself. But Dad was so smart, so intelligent enough that what I'm talking about, he would have agreed with me. He would have agreed with me. He would have been like, son, you're probably right. So I'm going to close this out. That was the last bit of it. I can't believe this video is going on for 25, 30 minutes because I only want to make 10-minute videos. I keep saying that, but I keep on talking. But if I have something to say and if it's on my mind, I want to get it out to you. I want to get it out to the youth because I don't want them to walk down the same path that I walked down. Because it's not fun. It wasn't easy. And there's nothing cool about it at all. All right. So I'm going to close this out. I'm probably going to do one more video tonight. Be as deep. It'll probably be something like Tekashi 6ix9ine or Meek Mill or something that's going on right there or out there right now that hopefully you can pick up on. Because what's happening out here right now with the celebrities and stuff like that and the rappers and all these rappers getting shot and killed is a telltale sign of what's in the universe is going to come back to get you. And what I mean by that is what they're saying out their mouths as far as, I'm going to rob this, I'm going to shoot that, I'm not scared of this, I'm not scared of that. It plays out in real life. So that's it. Close this out. Going on 30 minutes. Good grief. I mean, I just hope people are just like, you know what, this guy runs his mouth too much. Maybe we shouldn't be listening to all these stories or whatever, but it's just something that I think I need to relate to people. And I want people to pick up on. I want them to know me before I get into my workout. Because this video channel is basically going to be a whole bunch of working out, eating proper foods, drinking a lot of water, and staying out of trouble. All right. So I'll see you until next time.